here is the end of the book. This is chapters 141 through 144 of 14 Ways to Die. 141. I always knew he was an asshole, Bernie said, but I didn't know he was a monster. It took a while before she would talk to me, and when she finally did, I didn't ask why. Maybe she was embarrassed. Maybe she hated me a little bit. Maybe she couldn't look me in the eye once she knew what her stepdad really was, or maybe she needed some time to repair her own broken family. We all have our reasons for everything we do. I just didn't know Bernie's reasons were quite so horrible. When we spoke, the tears came first, then the words, then both. She apologized over and over again, even when I said she had nothing to be sorry for. I should have told someone that he hurt my mom, Bernie whispered, but he told me if I ever said anything. She didn't need to finish the sentence. I had seen for myself what he was, and I didn't blame her for a second. I never got the chance to talk to Clara again. Maybe one day I will, because I'd like to say thank you. But the three of them are supporting one another. They're free, and I hope they'll eventually be happy. The only one of us who he actually loved, Bernie said, and she saw right through him. I didn't ask what it was like to live with a man like that. I could guess, but I think I would still come up short. Sometimes Bernie gives me glimpses, explaining how it felt to be on the other side of the door while her stepdad punched and kicked from the hallway. I turn up my headphones so much it hurt my ears, she whispered, but I needed to block out the noise. In the end, the Magpie Man didn't pretend to be perfect to the people I once imagined were keeping him safe. He didn't have that in him. He simply hid what he really was by being a different kind of devil. I was too young to realize how close my mom and Bernie's mom had been, that they were neighbors who grew to be friends. Mom helped her through her divorce. She looked out for her the way she looked out for us. If I concentrate, I can picture them sitting in the living room, whispering over mugs of tea. I can remember them talking over the backyard fence. But then, not now, but now, I can imagine Bernie's mom buying my mom perfume to say thank you. That's how he knew. When Elliot Farrell came along, Mom watched a little closer, but she would never know that she'd caught him burning clothes covered in the blood of his first victim. She had no idea she would change the way he killed, becoming the first he was proud of, the first he took credit for. 142. At school, I lost my celebrity status quickly if I ever got that far. There were celebrations, congratulations, smiles from teachers who had bought new equipment with money from the show, and then there was nothing. It was back to the three of us, trying not to think too hard about anything. Not senior year, not saying goodbye, not college or whatever comes after that. We still have a year and a few months, and for now, we're desperately clinging to the few months. The only thing left to think about until the summer is the prom, which is a bigger deal for some than others. Emily comes under some. Prom doesn't mean as much in 11th grade because it's a party rather than a farewell. But I'm going because Mom would want me to. I'm going because I don't have an excuse not to anymore. I'm getting this one, Emily says, waving her phone in my face. It comes in royal blue, baby pink, or Merlot red. Hannah rolls her eyes, and I can't help laughing, but Emily doesn't care. She just grins and says, juniors usually wear party dresses. It's not until senior year that we need to think about ball gowns. We let Emily talk while quietly having our own conversation. Have you asked him yet? Hannah whispers, and I try to play dumb while feeling the butterflies flutter in my stomach. We each have a guest ticket for prom, and there's no rule saying that your guest can't be from 10th grade. Next to us, totally oblivious, Emily says, It's got cap sleeves and a lacy overskirt, but the lace looks silly and pink, and I haven't decided between sandals or heels. She could go on like this for hours. Speak of the devil, Hannah says. Behind me, with no clue what is happening, Jamie nods and says, all right. Emily stops talking about herself and exchanges a look with Hannah that Jamie catches but pretends not to. When the bell for next period rings, his fingers brush mine, and I think of the night he pulled me back from the alley and everything that came after. My life is not a love story, but there's no harm in trying. 143. Mr. Collins and I sit across from each other while Danny sets up the camera. This interview has been a long time coming, but even now my former English teacher looks like he has made a mistake. He never came back to St. Anthony's. He has another job now at another school in another town. When I ask how it's going, he says, as well as can be expected. I'm sorry, I say. He shrugs. It was my fault. That's why we are here, to find out his story. According to Adrian, if I want to end my contract early, my audience needs everything resolved. He calls Mr. Collins a loose end. Danny nods. Ready when you are. So I look into the blinking red light and say, I made a few mistakes along the way, and I'm trying to put that right. Turning to Mr. Collins, I ask, why did you put the articles in my bag? He looks ashamed, nothing like the man he was at school, and glancing at the camera, then the floor, he says, I knew your mother. We grew up together. We were friends. I thought only Dad and Nan had stories about Mom. Never expected an English teacher I hated to have a treasure chest filled with his own. She was the first person I spoke to in 8th grade, he whispers. She sat next to me in class and smiled the biggest smile, and I wasn't scared anymore. We were friends from that moment on. He is silent for a while, then he mumbles, I'm sorry about the articles. I was trying to help. I realize now that wasn't the case. What kind of person puts stories about a murdered woman in her daughter's school bag? Before I would have said a horrible person, but listening to him speak of my mother, I'm not so sure now. I should have spoken to you, he says. But what would I say? I know the kids see me a certain way. I thought it was better to stay anonymous. I wanted to motivate you, to ensure you never forgot what you were fighting for. I don't tell him I could never forget for a single second what happened to her. But thinking back to that first night after Mayfield Lodge, when I came home convinced I was quitting the show before the article in my suitcase and Sonia's coup pulled me back, I realized he did help me. You made a difference, I say, and he offers me a relieved smile. I want him to keep talking long after he stopped. I want him to tell me everything he can about Mom because he was her friend when she was my age. He knows things no one else does. When he's gone, Danny sits next to me and says, So that's it, I guess. It's been an honor. I'm proud of you. I used to hate it when people said that, but not anymore. What are you going to do next? I ask. I don't know. Something will come up. You were a good director. It has the luck of the draw, he replies, and I don't know if he means for me or for him. 144. It would be wrong to think Dad had some remarkable transformation that day. In so many words, he's still broken, just not as much as before. There are times now when he gets carried away with the conversation, when his eyes start to shine, when he laughs and actually means it. These are my favorite times, even though he looks like he feels guilty afterward. That is a curse of the grieving, to feel ashamed of our brief moments of happiness. On the day Elliot Farrell is found guilty of 16 counts of murder, the day he's told he will spend the rest of his life in jail, a shadow leaves my father's face. The receipt, the Polaroids, the photographs my mother took, they were all used as evidence. The man Mr. Farrell killed was named George Hansen. His family was the first to suffer, but the last to realize why. He went to school with Bernie's mom, and they reconnected online. When Mr. Farrell found out, he snuffed out the threat. On the news, after George Hansen's suicide was changed to murder, his family's tears were a combination of horror, heartbreak, and relief. In time, they can find closure like the rest of us, but for now, they have another grief journey to complete. When Dad hugs me, I wonder if he will ever let go. When he does, he pulls something from the side of his chair, but it's not Mom's photograph, it's an envelope. Inside is a check with my name on it. For the future, Dad says. It's a word we can finally think about. I paid off the mortgage with your mother's life insurance, he says, and there's plenty left over for bills. When I work the night shifts, that's for you. I thought you did it so you could get out of the house. I did, he says, and it helped, but the money was always for you. So what are you going to do with it? I might go to school to be a therapist. I want to help people. Dad smiles and says, You'll be good at that. And for the first time, I'm not afraid to move on. I'm not worried to leave him alone while I find my way. That night, we do what I have been planning for weeks. As I light the candle, I think back to the prayer room, to the time I silently spoke to a woman I will never truly know. Dad knew her in ways I can only imagine. He fell in love with her. He trusted her. He lived for her. A stranger who became his entire world. The flames send shadows flickering across the walls, my dad's face looking unfamiliar in the half-light. Before I whispered into the deepest, darkest corner of my mind. Now I share those thoughts with both of them, my mother and my father, the left and the left behind. When I'm done, I pass the candle to Dad, who stares at it in silence. I see 100 different emotions dance across his face, the flame steered back and forth by his breath. For a long time he doesn't talk, and I imagine the words in his head, the silent memories I hope he is recalling, the words he has kept hidden, slowly unwrapped and passed to the only person he ever wanted to hear them. When he clears his throat, I stand and leave, whatever he wants to say, best shared in secret. I go to my room and record my final statement, repeating a script I've been working on for weeks, the one that ends the show. Sometimes I wonder if this is real, if we really did catch him, but I only need to close my eyes to remember. I'm not live online anymore, but Adrian has granted me an epilogue, one final statement to satisfy my audience. My name is Jessica Simmons, I say, and I caught the Magpie Man. That's what we called him before we knew better, but his real name is Elliot Farrell. His crimes and the people whose lives he destroyed should never be forgotten. I hear a creak in the hallway and see Dad's reflection in my bedroom mirror. He stands for a few more seconds, not so secretly listening to me tell the world what justice feels like. Then he looks at me through the reflection and smiles.